Hello, hello. Welcome, Brenda, to the Healed in Cash Flowing podcast show. How are you?
I'm great, Kat. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my God, me too. I'm so glad that you're here. I can tell we're going to have an awesome conversation. I can tell already. So, for those that don't know you yet, but I'm sure going to love you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. I'm Brenda Winkle. I'm a coach and healer, and I support high achieving professionals, entrepreneurs, and light workers. And I support people by helping them to improve their well being, optimize their lives and their work, and take on less stress. And I do this through breath work, energy healing, and somatic coaching.
Oh my God, I think everybody needs that. I love the way you describe that. That is like, yes, please give me that.
Yeah, well, it was a labor of love because I was a teacher for 26 years.
Mm,
And so I knew how to do the education piece really well. I did not know how to describe what it was that I did. And so a lot of times I would say things that people were like, wait, what is that? So thank you for recognizing the work that I've done and being able to describe what I do.
yeah, it is so good. So let me ask you this. Most of the time, people that do this work is because they needed it themselves in their own lives. Is that the case? And talk us through that.
Absolutely. So, the thing that I really identify with is a people pleaser. And when
Mm,
I was a little girl, I was so sensitive to my surroundings. I could read a room, I could read emotions. And if somebody in the room was dysregulated, if they were angry, sad, scared, it dysregulated me. It felt physically threatening to have somebody near me that wasn't okay. And so I made it my job to make them feel better. And probably about the time I was in late elementary school, I started to scare the adults in the room by what I could perceive. I could know if somebody was hurting physically. I could say, hey, what's going on with your hip? I could know things that had happened the night before in their house, and it freaked people out. So, as a young child, not having anyone to mirror my abilities, I decided there must be something wrong with the way that I was saying it. And so I stopped talking about my gifts and I started people pleasing because I thought, well, if I could just anticipate their needs without talking about it, then they'll feel better. So I feel better. And then we don't have to have this conversation about how weird I am. And I took that people pleasing into adulthood and into a marriage. And by the time I was 35, I got off of a plane and I was coming back from a Mary Kay leadership conference. I was a teacher, but I was also a Mary Kay beauty consultant and sales director. And I was trying to do something, big in my life. And I got off this plane and I was feeling beautiful and inspired and lit up and magnetic. And as soon as I saw my family, I felt a lump in my throat. And it wasn't because I wasn't happy to see them. It was because I realized I had put myself in a people pleasing box.
mm.
I didn't know myself. I didn't know what I wanted. No one knew me. And I felt unknown. And it was a really devastating feeling. So I went on a healing journey to stop people pleasing. And in the process, discovered energy healing and discovered that my gifts are actually gifts. They're not liabilities. And that's what brings me here today.
Wow, that is so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you said something that I never realized. You said that you were people pleasing because if they felt better, then you would feel better. I never realized that at the end of the day, it's about you. You're
Mhm.
doing the people pleasing, not to make them feel better, because it says people pleasing, but it should really be called I'm pleasing me. I didn't even realize that. That's so
Mhm.
powerful.
Yeah, I mean, this is several years into my
Yeah.
process, but I realized that was the root. And I don't know if that's the root for everyone, but it is
Yeah.
the root for many people, especially if they have deep empathy and compassion, or if they were raised in chaotic environments where reading the room was essential for safety.
Yeah, I always knew about being in a chaotic environment, and then that really pushed kids to learn to anticipate so they can duck, so they can hide, so they can be safe, right? I did not realize I've always been very sensitive. I used to cry. I never asked for milk. I'm like, can I have some milk? It's like my mom said, oh, I never knew that I did that, but she told me that. And that checked out. That's how sensitive I was. Like I was hungry, like feed me, couldn't say just
Mhm.
feed me, right? But I was both. I was both very sensitive, very aware in a chaotic environment. So the combination is lethal, like it's terrible. So were you only very sensitive or were you also in a chaotic environment?
Well, that is such a great question. So, on the outside, it looked like I was in a very loving, supportive, nurturing environment with my family of origin. But what I didn't tell anybody was that I was enduring really serious abuse at the hands of a trusted family member. And I didn't
Mm,
tell anybody until I was 16. And that was a whole nother journey. So, on the surface, like my day to day life was pretty great. But, sometimes there were certain times of year when we would go visit this family member that life was not great. And
wow.
so the answer is both. I mean, it
Yes.
was chaotic. And then, just like with all trauma, it's not like you can shut it off just because you leave.
No. It stays there. And especially if you start a business. I don't know if you noticed that. You start a business and all your ish comes out. And it's not just taking business courses and stuff. Now you gotta deal with stuff that happened when you were 3. And you're like, I thought I have pushed that to the bottom drawer and locked it and never looked at it again. Why is this stuff coming up? All I want to do is show up, but you cannot fully show up because you have shame, you're afraid. If I'm seen, I'm gonna get hurt. All these things come up that you don't even know were there or have anything to do with business.
That's right. I have found owning a business to be the best personal development course in the world
Yeah, and more and most expensive.
and the most expensive. That is for sure.
Oh my God. And that's something that you said that kind of broke my heart a little bit, that you were so gifted and so amazing at being able to sense how others were feeling and so gifted, but that others were freaked out by that gift.
Mhm.
And you interpreted that as, whoa, this is other, it's creating otherness.
Mhm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. And also, I don't want them to be upset or think that there's something wrong with me. I'm going to hide who I am to make them feel better. That's
Mhm.
incredible. Instead, you could have said, I'm amazing. You don't know what you're missing. I'm going to shine because it's my gift. Like that part of you didn't even exist yet. It's so amazing
That's
to me.
right. It didn't exist. I think it goes back to that childhood chaos and that childhood trauma.
Yeah.
I think with that interwoven, that there was always this question of like, why can't they see what's happening? Why doesn't someone save me? Why am I continually being put in this situation? And at the time, I would not have been able to articulate all of that.
Yeah.
But after decades of healing and trauma work, I can say that that's absolutely what was happening in my child body. Is like, if I'm not safe in this extended family relationship and it's sort of right under everybody's nose, maybe
Yeah.
it's me. Maybe I'm the bad
Ooh.
one.
Wow. Wow. I want people to just let that land for a second. That somebody else missing all the clues, people that weren't supposed to be in charge and no fault of their own, probably, or they didn't want to see it, couldn't see it. Maybe it happened to them too. So there's so many layers, right?
That's right.
And then you make it, this is happening to me. Maybe I deserve it, or maybe there's something wrong with me.
Hmm.
Wow. So
Hmm.
powerful. Amazing.
I think that's what drew me to education. What I wanted to protect other kids. I wanted to be an ally and an advocate for
Yeah.
kids. And in my training as a teacher, I learned that this is part of development. We internalize all of the outward messages.
Yeah.
And, it took me a long time to sort of make peace with that because I was like, no, that's not what happened to me. I'm fine. And on
Yeah.
the inside, it manifested as an adult in not being able to claim what I really wanted to do for my work.
Mm,
It manifested in sort of tolerating relationships that were not aligned and not loving. And it manifested in me continuing to people please and really self abandoning until I didn't even really know what I liked.
wow. So what happened? How did you wake up? How did you stop that? All those patterns?
Oh my gosh. Well, it was a long journey. And so I just want to say it wasn't like a switch flipped. But when I was in Mary Kay, people believed in me.
Mm.
And those women surrounded me with so much encouragement and love that I started to think, wait, they see something in me I don't see in me. And they all do, whether or not they know each other. I wonder if maybe they're right. So it was that outward encouragement that first made me curious, like, wait, what if there's more here? And then I noticed that people responded to me differently when I held myself differently
Mm.
at those Mary Kay meetings.
Yeah.
And it was sort of just like a little catalyst. It made me curious, what would it be like if I could embody this confident woman like all the confident women around me? And so that was kind of the first big thing. Then the second big thing happened. And this is going to make me sound a little bit silly, but I think certain
That's okay.
listeners will resonate. I didn't realize that I was in an abusive marriage. And when I
Mm.
say I didn't realize it, it wasn't that I thought we were like super happy. I felt like we were in love, but I wouldn't have said we were happy. But I just thought this is what marriage was.
Mm.
And it took someone saying to me, what's happening to you is not okay. And again, it comes back to because I had outsourced all of my inner knowing as a child, I needed somebody, an other, and I'll talk about that in a second. I needed
Yeah.
an other to come in and reflect back to me that which I was. And when I was talking about other, I now know that we each have 3 doors. We have a self to self door, a self to other door, and a self to source door. And at that
Mm.
time in my life, the only door that was open was the self to other.
Wow. That's powerful. So we have three doors: self to self, self to others, and self to source.
That's right.
We're
And source
definitely
could
gonna have
be
to.
God, universe,
Yes.
creator,
Yes.
whatever term makes you feel most comfortable.
Yes, and thank you for being sensitive. My other guest that I just had made the same distinction. Coming from the background that I come from and knowing what I know now, I am very sensitive because people have had different experiences, different trauma with religion and believing. So here, people call it different things. I call it God, but I'm very sensitive. Somebody calls it the universe. I'm happy to call it the universe. Somebody feels comfortable calling it higher power, nature. I'm happy to because it's the same thing. So thank you. I wanted to acknowledge that. I appreciate that. So
Yeah.
somebody else had to tell you that where you that let me just go back to this, that you thought this is what marriage was. So even though you were not happy, you thought this is what I signed up for. What was
Mhm.
the thinking behind that?
Yeah. So I was raised in a small town in northwestern Nebraska. And in my family, there was no divorce. And one of my cousins ended up getting divorced, several years before I did. And it was like the standout divorce. So in my family, there was just like, it wasn't a thing. Even though it was all around me in the rest of the world, it wasn't a thing. And I had this belief that till death do you part. You just
Mm-hmm.
make it work. You just
Yeah.
keep making it work. And so were there problems? Yes, there were obvious problems. Even to me, I knew there were problems, but I just kept working on them, thinking that one day they would
Mm-hmm.
change. Or if I was just this, it would be better. If I was just that, if I could just earn more money, if we could just live in a different house, if we could just move to this state, it would release.
All things that you're saying are external.
That's right.
Nothing working on the two people.
That's right. Nothing working on the 2 people. And it wasn't until that feeling in me that I'm actually worth something started to bloom that I even had the curiosity to think, maybe this isn't okay. And
Yeah.
one time I was setting up for an event at like a Holiday Inn or something with another
Mhm.
sales director. And I thought it went great. I was really happy with the day. It felt like we had a beautiful connection. And I'd brought along my daughter who was like early elementary school at that time. I thought it was a great day. I had so much fun. It was one of the best days I'd had in a long time. And so when that woman called me that evening, I was really excited to answer the phone. So I answered the phone and I was like, hello. And she said, we have to talk. And I went, oh, okay. Why? And she said, I know what's happening in your house. And the first place I went
Mm.
was, wait, you know that there's dishes in the sink that I haven't done yet? Because that was the kind of the house I was operating in. Like there was always walking on eggshells. Did you do the thing? Did you do the thing?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what you mean. And she said, yeah, you do. And she just let it drop. And I didn't say anything because I was like searching for, I don't know what you mean. And she said, the reason I know what's going on in your house is because I had a house that was just like it. And it's not about what you say, it's about what you don't say. And my heart almost stopped.
Wow.
And I started to cry. And I was like, okay, but I don't know what to do next.
Mhm.
And she said, well, you need help. You need professional help. This is not something I can help you with, but I can give you some referrals. And that was one of the kindest things anybody has ever done for me. And she did refer me out to someone who I played it down. I went in
Yeah.
intentionally like, let's not get this all worked up. Let's play it down a little bit. So I was just, talking about daily life and, yeah, we fight, but it's fine. She closes her book at the end of our session and she scoots back, which is always a sign that I'm not going to like what's coming. And she said, I never counsel divorce, but you need an exit plan. And I said,
And you downplay things.
I downplayed things. I didn't even tell her like the worst things that had
My
happened even the last
God.
2 days. And I
Yeah.
was just, kind of glossing over things. And so when
Yeah.
she said that, I had full body chills. And that was the first time I was scared.
Wow. And I even got so emotional when you said, I was so thankful for that lady. And I even said to myself, I'm glad she went through what she went through because she was able to help you. Like,
That's
I
right.
fully believe that everything we go through, if we do the work, we are going to be the catalysts. We are going to be the people that are going to reach back and pull people out. And I'm so thankful for that lady, even though I know it was very painful that she could see it in you, that she could see herself in you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And she helped
beautiful.
us in amazing ways, but that had to have taken a lot of courage for her to have done that.
Yeah, but maybe, you know what it is? Maybe you did her such a favor because maybe she needed someone to do that for her. And for her to be able
Mm,
to reach out to you and be like, I know what you're going through. I know what that is. Like everybody, like just think of the full circle moment. All the people were missing that about her in her life. She saw it, and here she is stepping up and saying, "Hey, we had a great day, business wise, blah blah blah. And let's talk about the elephant in the room." Like
mm.
amazing. Like
I
kudos to
love
her.
that perspective. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're very welcome. It gave me chills just thinking about it. So wherever she's at, we send her the most amazing
Mm.
love and kindness and abundance, a lot of abundance.
Yes, yes, absolutely. All the abundance.
Oh my God. So back to the story. So the lady closes the book. She says you need an exit plan. And then you said something interesting. You said that that's the first time you were afraid. So why the first time?
It was the first time I was afraid because it was the first time I actually knew I was going to need to leave that relationship.
Mm,
And I knew that it was going to be not only dangerous for me to leave, but really scary. And I didn't know what to do or how to do it. And thankfully, that same woman made a connection and got me into a locked door domestic violence facility about 2 weeks later. And it took
2 weeks. Wow, that was
2
fast.
weeks. Oh, it was
And
fast.
you were married for how long?
14 years.
Ooh,
Yeah.
14 years.
Yeah. So it was super interesting because even after that, and I was scared and I knew I was going to have to leave, I would still go back and forth between this really happened and I'm making this up. This isn't real.
Mm,
And so I decided I felt like I was going crazy. And so I wore a voice recorder in my bra for 2 weeks,
mm,
for those 2 weeks. And I recorded the conversations. And so it worked out that I would have evenings by myself and I could listen to the recordings. And they left no question in my mind about what I had to do. And, it's one of those cases where I wish I could have said that I was worth it alone, but that's not what actually got me out. What got me out was I knew I needed to model something different for my daughter.
Yeah. But I just love how you did what you needed to do. Like you're like, am I making this up? Am I making it bigger than it is? And you look for the evidence.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
love that you went there and you're like, okay, maybe let me just see. And then the recordings were like, girl, you gotta get out. Like you're not making this up. You gotta go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how old is your daughter at this point?
She's 23.
No, but then at that time
Oh, at
when
that
you
time,
left,
she was 5.
she was 5. Okay. Now, did she know something was up? Did she tell you anything when you guys left?
Um, she's also very sensitive.
Hmm.
And so she knew that there was tension and chaos and fighting. And I didn't tell her what was happening the day that we left. A friend drove us, but she knew. She's like, "We're not going home, are we?"
Wow.
So I tried always, and I still do, to never say anything disparaging about her dad
Hmm.
because I felt like there was enough already.
There was enough.
There was
He
enough
did it.
already.
Yeah.
I didn't need to say anything, and
Yeah.
and that wasn't always easy. There were some times in the years
Trust
that
me, I know.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
know. Very familiar with biting your tongue, not saying anything. The beautiful thing is that they do the work for you, so you don't even have to do anything.
You don't have to do anything. You just have to wait.
Yeah, and that is the key. And I'm a very patient woman. I always tell people, you're gonna do what you're gonna do. I don't have to do anything. My daddy is very jealous, and whenever he pays people back, it is not pretty. And I have waited and I have sat back and seen things that I would never do. And I'm like, I have gotten vindicated in such ways. And I'm like, wow, even for you, that was a lot,
Were you born patient?
Um, was I born patient? I think no. I think my environment made me patient because I needed to. As a child, I always wanted to leave and I couldn't leave, and I had to leave much later, which is now I call myself a leaver. Very proudly, I'm a leaver. And people,
Mm.
I don't even advertise this, but I will leave. Like people think they got me, like I'm trapped or something. It's like, baby girl, you don't know anything. I'ma leave. Like I have no issues leaving. I promised myself a long time ago that I would protect myself always and forever. That is like my relationship to me.
Mhm.
Like I'm forever dating me and loving myself. And my daughter makes fun. Just like it's a little much. I'm like, I don't think it's too much. It's a little much. I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think you can love yourself too much. I think it's the most selfless thing you can do because then it makes me a better person for the other people in my life.
That's right.
So I'm leaving. If you don't treat me right, and I love what you said about that you outsource your inner knowing
Mhm.
and that you also did not have the ability to claim what you needed. And that happens a lot when you come from these environments where you are feel differentialized and you don't even know how to distinguish when something is not good or something is not at the level. The
Mhm.
beautiful thing is that people through their actions are the best teachers and they
Mhm.
show us that there's better, that better is available.
That's right. I love that. And so going back to your first question of, or maybe not your first question about,
Yeah,
am I doing what I most needed to know? The answer is yes, absolutely.
yeah,
Because now my main focus is helping people step into their inner
yeah.
authority.
So good. So you leave, life is, I'm sure, what it is. When did you discover or when do you give yourself permission to do the work that you're doing now?
So I left in 2007, and it was
Okay.
2015 or 2014, I guess, when I discovered what I now do. And it happened accidentally. I had gone to yoga classes from
Hmm.
2008. Well, I mean, I still go, but I
Yeah.
started in 2008. And I found that there was so much healing happening as I moved my body.
Yeah.
And so I was really committed to yoga. And in 2014, I went to a particular school placement where the schedule made it difficult for me to get to my favorite studio. So I reached out to the owner and I said, is there any way that you or someone that you know could come teach yoga at my school? and the other teachers could have yoga in my room. And so she said yes. And so I started
Mm.
hosting yoga classes in my classroom. And one of the teachers that came to that class heard me talking once about needing a massage or something like that. And she brings me this card, it's not even hers, and it said Reiki on it.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, I've heard of Reiki, but I don't actually know what it is. And she said, well, why don't you come try a session? It's my treat. And that was history. It was in that first Reiki session, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've just been seen and heard in my fullness for the first time in my life. And within a year, I was a Reiki master, and it's still foundational to what I do. And I'm still connected with that first mentor. She's one of my very best friends.
So
And
good.
so it's been like, I guess it would be about 10 years,
Wow. Was that first Reiki session a Reiki massage or just a Reiki session?
just a Reiki session.
Because Reiki massages are another level. Like I didn't know that that existed. I knew about Reiki, but I did not know about Reiki massages. And I was microdosing the first time with ayahuasca last year. And the coach said, I'll do something nice for you every day because you're doing something big. I'm like, okay, so I'll do a massage. And I found a place and did a massage. And then I saw and then I'm like, oh, and something happened. And then the person said, I don't know how, but Reiki came up. Oh, I was Googling, I was looking for massage places, and then Reiki kept coming up. And I'm like, now at this point, I'm no longer afraid of everything, that everything is evil, that everything is the devil. No, I'm now free as a bird and I can do whatever I want. So I'm like, let me check this Reiki thing. And Reiki is so the opposite of evil. I love even when you're learning that
That's
they tell
right.
you you
Mhm.
cannot do harm even if you wanted to. The whole point of Reiki is to do well
That's
for
right.
other people, which is so beautiful. So one of the massages was a Reiki massage, and that was life changing. And I also became a Reiki master because it's so good. I added when I'm doing somatics and I'm doing somatic sessions, I'm able to send people distant Reiki as
Mhm.
support as they're dealing with difficult emotions.
I do that too. It's
You
foundational to
do?
everything I do. Yeah.
Yes.
It's in breath
Even
work,
though,
it's in
did,
somatics.
did you like when they, I don't know if your mentor taught you this, the bubble of protection? You guys been taught
Mhm.
that? I, as an empath, as someone that is very sensitive to energies and people's modes and stuff, I would have benefited from that so much, especially when you go to events and stuff and there's so many people and you just go, bubble on, and you're like, fine. Like I can be, because I like to be empathetic and be there for people, but now I can be and I'm good. I always
I
tell people,
love
I'm going to
that.
help you and I'm going to be okay. The more you can tell me anything, I'm going to be okay. And it's
I
true.
absolutely love it. I call it the zip up method because
Mm,
I needed something physical to do. And so I
mm.
just teach people like they're zipping up a parka, but they go up over the back of their head.
Ah,
And it was game changing. And
that's
so I
good.
feel like teaching this in schools, teaching this to parents, teaching
Yes,
this to professionals is essential because as empaths, we absorb
yes,
everything unless we're
yes.
preserving our own energy.
Yes, in the past. I love saying this. In the past.
In the past.
Even if the past was 5 minutes ago. In the past. In the past I had that problem, not anymore. That is so good. So let me see if I can take us back. So that lady tells you about Reiki, you feel seen. What happens after that?
So she and I, about a year after I became a Reiki master, she and I both got trained as theta healers. And so then I added theta healing to my
And
theta
what
healing is
is
a
that?
meditation technique,
Okay.
and it's a collaborative meditation technique where you and the person that is coming in for a session are working together in the theta brainwave state. And we access the seventh plane, which is where God lives, and we can reprogram the subconscious mind by using the theta brainwave state in this specific style of meditation. And so it's beautiful for creating lasting healing, where we can reprogram beliefs that are no longer serving us or even have physical healings. And again, I always like to say this is never a replacement for your traditional medical care, but it's a great addition to
Yes.
medical care.
That is so good. So you did, so you dove right in. You're
Oh,
going
I
to the
dove in
Reiki, you're going
head
into
first. I was like, I need more of this. And
yeah.
then I went down the rabbit hole and I was like, teach me pendulums, teach me to read oracle cards, teach me do all the things, because all of a sudden somebody was already ahead of me and it
Mm,
was a mirror for me and my abilities. And so it was literally life-changing to be a part of a community of other people who were like me. And so as I got to see more people who had my gifts, I could ask them questions about, how do you access your gifts? How do you open up? How do you do these things? And those other people were so instrumental in my journey because I could learn from them. And they were the first people in my life that were like me.
yeah, that is so good. And it's funny how nobody ever tells you it's the biggest racket, because it's like you're gonna learn one thing and you're like you're gonna be done. No, it's gonna open the door to all these other modalities. And
That's
that's
right.
what I love. We are building this amazing tool belt, and then we can reach in and we have all these little things that go together. And I just love how we just become this, have this smorgasbord of awesomeness. Like, okay, this person has that problem. I learned this modality, I don't know, 3, 5 years ago. I can incorporate it. And that's the beauty of our gifts. And I don't know if you experience that, where your gifts are kind of molding into whatever, whoever you're helping, and you know exactly where to go. That ever
Yeah.
happened to you?
Yeah, in fact, that's the only way that I operate now. I used to have everything separate. So like a breathwork session would be separate from a somatic coaching, separate would be separate from a theta healing session. And now I'm just like, it's a healing session
Yeah.
and we're just going to do whatever comes through. Um, and I have found that there's so much more substantial healing when I stop trying to control by using what a specific modality.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you find that too?
The same. Like I used to be like, oh, I am a somatic facilitator, and then I added hypnosis, and by then I realized I was already doing hypnosis. I did not know that I was, but I was regressing people. I was able to go back into a time of their childhood or something that happened before, and we were able to heal that.
Hmm.
And I didn't know. And then hypnosis again, just like Reiki, and then somatics kept popping up. And then I looked into it. And as I'm going through the training, I'm like, I'm already doing this. I might not be using these words or stuff,
Right.
but doing the meditation, because that's what somatics really is, the guided meditation. During the somatics meditation, we are doing this. Like I am literally, now I just have even more tools, which is incredible. But yeah, I'm finding the same. I'm finding that I just know, and I didn't know that was a gift. I did not know that I know what they need. Like we're talking and I'm listening and I'm like, I got it. And now I
Hmm.
always ask this question: did you trust me to go where we need to go? And
Oh,
most of
I
the time
love
they
that.
say, and that is that asking, that's, and I don't know if you're into human design, but
Mhm.
that asking, it's so beautiful, because sometimes we can just go before people are ready. So I always ask, even sometimes they need a little more, but most of the time they're like, I trust you. And then we go in and it's amazing.
I love that. That I'm trauma informed. I got trauma
Mm,
informed certifications in my breath work and in my somatic coaching. And that question is so important where we give people an opportunity to give us consent. I love,
yes.
love, love
Yeah, because
that.
even if they're gonna say yes, it's so nice to know you have a choice. It's so nice
Hmm.
to know I respect you enough that just because I think that will be great, or that you're ready, I'm asking if you're ready.
Yeah.
Even that, like when you said, going back to that, that's what you thought marriage was. In many relationships, I did not know that I could say, I'm not ready for that.
Hmm.
Not that I
Hmm.
did not want to, but at that moment, I was still not ready. And I don't know that people talk about that. And I love that we're teaching people that we get to, I'm trying to slow down as much as possible so I can check in with myself.
Hmm. That's right.
So sometimes I'm slow and people are like, oh, hold on. I need a moment. I need to know how I feel about that. And I'm still growing into that, but I wish that I had those skills before where I could be like, oh, I don't know how I feel. But now I give myself permission to change my mind. If I said yes to something I did not want to,
Yeah.
I give myself full permission to change my mind.
I love that. And so in my learning, I've learned that there are three intuitive bodies. So we have the mental field, which is like up in the head. We have the emotional body, which is just outside of the heart for most people. And that's where we have access to our emotional intelligence. And then we have the intuitive body, which is kind of equal to where our sacral chakra is around the belly
Mm.
button. The thing is, each intuitive center moves at a different speed. So the
Mm.
mental field uh, is very, very fast. As we move
Mm.
into the emotional body, it slows down. So if we need to access that emotional body, we have to slow down or we can't hear it. And the
Yeah.
intuitive body, which is near the belly button, moves even more slowly. And so
Wow.
what you are automatically doing is slowing down so you can access that intuitive knowing.
That is so good. I did not know that because what, I don't know if you noticed that abusers, narcissists, or people that like to manipulate and like to get their way, they're always rushing you
That's right. That's why.
because they know. I don't know if they know intuitively. They probably do know, but they know what they're doing. Let me rush there. Let me rush her
Hmm.
them. That
Hmm.
way, I can get my way. By the time they figure out what's happening, you are weaved into their whatever thing they wanted you to do, and you're like, how do we even get here?
That's right. That's right. And I don't think anyone's out there teaching courses on how to be abusers, but I
No.
do think you're onto something that they intuitively know if they don't give anyone time that they can do their thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So you find your sweet spot. You're learning all of these amazing modalities. When did you start helping people?
I opened up, well, I've had a business since 2005. So it was a Mary Kay business until like 2012. And then I did a little photography studio in my home for a few years. And then when I started Reiki, I opened up a business right away. And so I started in 2015 or 2014, I guess, helping people part time while I taught school. And then in 2022, I found myself leading a group challenge, and I was telling everybody in the challenge, you just have to do what feels right for you. And, all about empowerment and following the nudge of joy and doing less of what weighs us down. And then I got off the call and I was like, I have to go to school on Monday. This is terrible. And so
Mhm.
I sort of brought my witness online and I was observing that in myself. And I was like, wait a minute, there's a massive incongruence here. If you're telling people to follow their joy and then you're getting ready to go say, I have to go to school. What is that about? So I thought, okay, I'm just going to lean into curiosity today. I'm not ready to do anything more. So it was a 4-day or 5-day challenge. So day 2 rolls around. I'm, excited about leading them through. The challenge was called Yes to Me. And at the end of the challenge, we're signing off. And I'm like, I don't want to go to school on Monday.
Wow.
And then I thought, oh my gosh, not only is there an incongruence, but I'm out of integrity. And that hit me in the gut. Like I was physically ill when I realized that I was out of integrity. So this was like August of 2022, and school was supposed to start on Monday. This was the week before. By Wednesday of the call, the next time I logged in with that group, I knew I was resigning. And I
Wow.
resigned from my teaching job and started working full time in what I do now. And it was like the biggest, best, scariest, most terrifying, most liberating decision I've ever made.
Wow. I knew that when you said that in your head when you were telling them you have to do what you want to do. I knew that moment. I'm like, that I hate when that happens. I hate it. I hate it and I love it because it calls you out, right? It's
Hmm.
like, oh, you telling them to do that, but you're not doing that for yourself. Okay.
Hmm. That's right. It's a big check.
That is so
Yeah.
good. So how does it feel now, all these years after everything that happened when you were growing up? You left that abusive relationship, you left Mary Kay, you left the school, and now you're doing this. Like, how does everything integrate into like this version of you?
Mm. Well, I'm more relaxed. I'm more fun. I'm more fun for me. Like I enjoy my company quite a lot. And I also have more fun. I took up ballroom dancing. I love to paddleboard. I have an almost 2-year-old Italian Greyhound. And I just got off of 5 months of full-time travel. I just I follow the energy and it feels so good. And so when I follow the energy, it leads me to places and people and experiences. And as long as I'm feeling good, I keep doing that. And then when I get the little nudge that it's time to do something different, I do something different. And it's never led me wrong. And it feels free.
So good. I'm sure. I'm sure it does. It's funny that we all have that inner knowing. You know, like when you said when you had outsourced your inner knowing. Once
Mhm.
you plug it back in,
Yeah. It's watch
once
out
you
world.
it's what your world. And
Mhm.
also, has it ever happened to you that like if you go to an event or if you meet someone, you know who to gravitate towards, like you just
Mhm.
know. They don't have to say
Totally.
anything, they don't have to do anything. I know what table to sit at. I know who I'm gonna connect with. I know if somebody's evil. Like I even know if somebody wants to do something bad. It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. That's that discernment that comes online once we tap into our inner knowing, where we know who we're drawn to, who we're vibrating with. I
Yeah.
was a music teacher and I used to have to tune ukuleles. So I had a wall of ukuleles in one classroom with like 25 ukes. And so I'd be in there tuning him. And the first one I tuned was always the hardest because it was like they can get out of tune if they're played all day by kids, right? So the first one took a lot of work. But then when I started the second one, I could see in the strings of the first one when I got the second one in tune. Because when something is tuned to the same frequency, it vibrates. So if you
Mm.
got all those ukuleles in tune and you plucked one of them, all of the same strings would vibrate on the ukuleles, which is the same thing that you're talking about. When you know who you want to sit by at the table and you know who you want to have a conversation with, you can feel their energy. You can feel that
Mhm.
vibration.
It's so good. It's so good. I know someone is listening and they're like, hey, you girls at the beginning talk about three doors: to self, door to self,
Mhm.
self to others, and self to source. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I know it's bugging them. It's been bugging me too. So I'm like, let's close the loop.
Yeah, let's close the loop. Okay, so let's first of all take away any hierarchy. There's no such thing as a good door, a bad door, a better door.
Okay.
They're just equal doors. And we might have access to one that's really, really easy for us to access. And maybe there's another one that we can kind of access. And maybe there's one that's completely inaccessible to us. And that can shift in our lives. It can shift depending on our circumstances. But essentially, it's the doorway into your deepest knowing. And so, if you are self to self, that means that you're going to really love turning within to find
Mm,
your deepest knowing. That's going to mean alone time for you. That's probably going to mean time in meditation. That's probably going to mean journaling and self reflection, maybe even recording voice notes on your phone to hear your own voice come back. So, that's that self to self door. The self to other door is where we can find our inner knowing by being mirrored by another. And so that might mean that we have a trusted confidant. It might mean that we have a therapist or a coach, or it might mean that you need a religious mentor, depending on what that faith tradition is. If you are self to other door, it can be really supportive if you ask for something like, I led a big event 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and I called a friend and I could just feel anxiety building because this was a really prestigious event for a major Fortune 500 company. And I was leading a meditation on the beach of the Oregon coast. And I had those butterflies. And so I called her and I said, can you reflect back to me the fullness of me right now?
mm,
And so that was an example of using that self to other door when we ask someone to mirror us.
yeah.
And then self to source is where we rely on our source, whatever that is. God, the universe, creator, whatever word or entity or beingness feels good to you. So that might mean that you spend time in nature or time in prayer or time in meditation or time in a religious ritual or a tradition. And again, there's no such thing as a good door or a bad door. They're just doors. We want you to take whatever door you can take and then be willing to shift if you need to. So, like, my dad died in August, and for his whole life, he had, or at least my memory, he had been a self to source. So he relied heavily on his ability to get information from who he called God. And at the end of his life, for some reason, that door felt cloudy for him. And his self to other door opened up, and he needed other people to mirror to him what was true. And it was really interesting to observe that in him, and then to observe how other people met him in that. And it was really special to be a witness to.
Wow, that is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And sorry about the loss of your dad.
Oh, thank you.
Um, you're welcome. It's amazing how you were talking, and I'm like, yep, yep, yeah. And I love how in different seasons you might gravitate to certain doors more than others, and that's totally okay.
That's right. In certain
That,
seasons, in certain circumstances, and sometimes even in certain topics.
yeah, yeah, that is so good. So what is one thing that we haven't discussed yet that you feel very strongly about that this audience should listen or hear about the work that you do or that you believe?
Yeah. So I believe energy is everything, which means that if we're taking care of our energy, everything else will take care of us. And the way that we can take care of our energy is by honoring our truest emotions, because our our emotions are an indicator of how we're feeling. It's like they're our compass. So if we feel drawn to somebody, we should trust that. If we feel like this isn't for me, we should trust that. But then the other thing about emotions is we want to let them flow completely through us so we don't get stuck in them, because sometimes emotions just need to flow in our body. And then when they release, we can think more clearly, because usually first comes a thought, then comes an emotion, then comes an action, then comes a result. So if we're not aware of what we're thinking, and most of us are not, but we can feel an emotion, it can give us a clue into what we're feeling and what we're thinking. And so then we can readjust our thoughts. And one of the things that I think is so important is practices like you offer with the hypnosis and the somatics, because if we're not getting into the body to release stuck emotion, we're not releasing all the energy we need to be able to flow freely.
Yeah, that is so powerful. And as you were saying that, I realized that for some people, some emotions are not safe to feel.
That's right.
And then imagine years and years of that emotion being stuck. And that's why many things don't manifest, many things don't come to pass because you're stuck and you don't even know you're stuck. So I can see definitely an opportunity to do some teaching on releasing some emotions, or even like when you said so beautiful, there's no hierarchy with the doors, that's not a good one or a better one. So with emotions, if we took the charge of the emotion, right? You
That's
think
right.
about anger, can be one that is like that for me definitely was, and I continue to do the work on, because it was never expressed in a safe way. So
Hmm.
I always shied away from that until I learned that anger, it's okay. I'm not a little child anymore. I'm okay. So I can be in a state where people are angry and I know I'm okay. And if I don't feel okay, I can say, tone it down or whatever, right? But taking the charge of that emotion and teaching that, let the emotion ride. I love that. Let it flow up. Let it do what it's gonna do. Because when it passes, you're gonna be better off. It needs to be felt. It's like sometimes we suppress our feelings, and that's, I think, I don't know if that's what depression is, but it definitely has something to do with it, where you're not fully feeling, or you're not allowing yourself to feel, and then you get stuck in that state because it's still in there.
That's right. That's right. So I have a little mini course with 14 tools for emotional regulation. And I will gift that to your audience. I will give you the link, and I'll give you a coupon code that's special just for your audience, that has ways that we can use specific tools, breath, somatic practices, to help us deal with specific emotions. And I will say that this the lens of this particular course is to deal with emotional eating, drinking, and scrolling.
Mm,
But you can apply these emotional tools to anything. It doesn't have to be emotional eating, drinking, and scrolling. It's just from that lens. So I'll give that
yeah.
as a gift to your
Yeah. Oh
audience.
my God, that is so generous. Thank you so much. That's going to
You're
help so
welcome.
many people, especially people that I know that are stuck with the scrolling and they don't know how to stop. They're doing it, but they don't know how to stop. And hopefully the
Mhm.
course will help them realize why they're doing it and then they can stop. But emotional eating, as you know, we're in the season and that's a way that people cope. I think that's going to be amazing. We'll make sure to include that in the show notes. Oh my God, you're so generous. And I'm so grateful that you're doing this work and people get to work with you and that you are doing this work. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for
Oh,
doing this work and leading these conversations, because the more we can normalize conversations like this, I think there's a lot of people who will feel less alone. So thank you.
yeah, you are very welcome. I feel very seen. Thank you for that. Where do you hang out the most so people can go follow you there?
The place I hang out the most is Instagram, and it's just my name,
Okay,
Brenda Winkle, Winkle. I am also active on TikTok, but honestly, I'm not as skilled there as I would like to be.
right. And we
But
don't
it
even know what's going to happen, right? We don't know who's
we
going to be
don't.
here.
We don't know. But Instagram, I love there. And then the
I
hub of
love it.
everything is my website, which is
Okay,
brendawinkle.com. And that
beautiful.
has, whatever challenge I'm working on at the moment. It's got access to my podcast, which is called Your Yes Filled Life. And you're going to be a guest on it in
Yes.
2025,
Oh
which
my
will be
God,
really
yes.
fun. So yeah,
Yeah,
come say
yeah,
hi and let me know you heard this podcast.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Do you have anything coming up that you want to share with anybody else other than the free, beautiful course that you're giving us?
Yeah, I host in-person retreats. And I have one that is upcoming in the late spring of 2025. And you can learn more at brendawinkle.com/retreat. And I love to host retreats that give people a chance to actually rest and
Mm,
recharge. And we do lots of breath work, inner child healing. And I always host, well, I have always hosted in Oregon. And Oregon is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place to be. You can get into the mountains, to the ocean, to the rivers, to the plains in an hour, any direction. So, yeah, come learn more about that. And
exciting. I love a
maybe we can
retreat.
meet in person. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I was already doing I was doing the math of the traveling that I'm doing. I'm like, can I squeeze that in? That would be amazing. Because I'm a
Oh,
sucker for a
yeah.
retreat. I think retreats are life changing. And I love what you said, and I know why you said it. You said I love retreats where people can actually rest. Because I don't know if
Hmm.
you ever gone to a retreat and you need a vacation from that retreat because they pack it up. They give you and it's like, give me a moment. I need to integrate. And my life is crazy. Like, can I just rest? So
Hmm.
thank you
Yeah.
for doing that.
Yeah. Thank
That's
you.
amazing. Yeah, I cannot wait for a talk on your podcast. I know it's gonna be amazing. You share so many tools and things that people can dive into, and I know that they can go to your website or follow you on Instagram to learn more. Amazing conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My pleasure. There you have it, guys. You need to go follow Brenda because she is a beautiful soul doing amazing, amazing work. As you can see, our conversation just flow. We just met today. We haven't met before. We didn't plan any of the questions, but you could tell that the flow was just going. You have an amazing opportunity to live a beautiful life. And if life happened to you, trust me, life happened to me many, many times, and I'm here. So it is possible to heal. It is possible to be happy, and it is possible to do the work that you have been called to do. All you have to do is decide. Please know that I love you, that I'm rooting for you, and I'm going to see you super, super soon.